10th April 2022. Welcome back to Purana Pakistan.
Pakistan is witnessing a change in leadership. Prime Minister Imran Khan was ousted following a no-confidence vote where 174 members in the 342-member House voted in favor of the resolution against Imran Khan. Shehbaz Sharif, brother of former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, will replace Imran Khan. How will this change play out? Here are 5 key takeaways.
First is, Pakistan's democracy is sort of seen as a flawed democracy, and many say it's a guided democracy, essentially guided by the Pakistani military. So no elected prime minister there has ever completed his or her 5-year term. The first prime minister, Liaquat Ali Khan, was assassinated. After him, 7 prime ministers have resigned, 5 have faced dismissal, while 4 were ousted through military coups. In fact, Nawaz Sharif, who's been prime minister for 3 times, he is credited to have the longest run at 3,422 days. And Imran Khan stands at number 6 at 1,335 days. So while this is the first time a sitting PM in Pakistan has been voted out, this has been a sort of a transition that has happened over the last, say, 14 years or so. There has been a transition from democratically elected governments to the next democratically elected government. So this suggests that democracy in Pakistan is gradually finding its feet, of course, with some help from the military establishment. Now, Imran Khan was a cricketer, as we all know, world famous for winning the World Cup in his captaincy for Pakistan. And he arrived in politics as an unknown, since he didn't belong to any of the mainstream parties. That meant that he did not carry any historical baggage, but he built on his cricketing success and the cancer hospital that he'd built for in the memory of his mother. And so he sort of promised what was called Naya Pakistan, where there'll be no corruption, there'll be prosperity, there'll be jobs, the justice system will be there. But as it turned out in the last 3.5 years or so, it did not turn out the way it was sort of dreamt to be. Now, Dawn, the leading Pakistani newspaper, it recently did a tracker. It tracked the promises that Imran Khan made in its manifesto, and there were 51 promises that were made, and only 2 were found to be complete, and 6 hadn't even started. So in all, Pakistan's economy has been hit by massive inflation, which is said to be an outcome of his government's economic mismanagement. Its GDP has fallen from $315 billion in 2018 when he came to power to $292 billion in 2022. It's been asking IMF for bailout packages, and its dependence on China has increased manyfold. Also, Imran Khan's ill-timed visit to Moscow in February this year was not sort of appreciated by the West, especially Washington, and because Russia was just invading Ukraine at that point of time. And he tried to blame Washington or the US for the hidden hand against his government's downfall. But the last straw was possibly the Pakistan army and the break falling out with the army. Many in Pakistan say that it was the army that selected Imran Khan for Prime Minister position in 2018 after the Nawaz Sharif fell out of power with the military establishment. Rawalpindi thought it had got what it saw a puppet prime minister in Islamabad. If you remember, Imran Khan's initial foray into politics was handled by former ISI chief Hamid Gul. He's infamous for being the brain behind terror activities in India through the 90s and 2000s. Imran Khan always flaunted his USP, that Pakistan Army and his government were on the same page. But what happened was this cozy relationship broke last year when Imran Khan tried to block the appointment of the army's pick, Lieutenant General Nadeem Anjum, as the new ISI chief, and instead backed Lieutenant General Faiz Hamid, who was the incumbent ISI chief, to continue. It was sort of widely reported that Khan had struck a deal with Lieutenant General Hamid that Khan would help him become the army chief, and then he would then help Khan win another term in 2023 when the elections take place. But Army Chief General Qamar Bajwa got wind of this and put his foot down, sending Hamid on a posting away from Rawalpindi while bringing in Lieutenant General Anjum. Now, Imran Khan, because he kept sitting on the orders from the army, that sort of was the breaking point between the two. Imran Khan obviously relented after 3 weeks, but the damage was already done. Now, General Bajwa, who retires in November, now has the chips with the new PM and the ruling coalition, as he bargains for an extension beyond November 2022. Many analysts say that change of the army chief is actually the real power transition in Pakistan, because they hold the levers to the civilian establishment. Four years ago, you remember, Sharifs were defeated and out of favor. Now they're back in the game. It was Shehbaz Sharif who moved the no confidence motion. He has worked his way into getting the support of the Pakistan Army. Nawaz Sharif, who is right now in London, was in fact remembered by his brother during his speech after the no confidence motion. Shehbaz Sharif, who's been Chief Minister of Pakistan's key Punjab province, has always been under the shadow of his brother, but his ties with the Pakistan Army are very deep. In fact, Pakistani journalist Hamid Mir wrote in the Indian Express about 5 years ago that Shehbaz was offered the Prime Minister's position by the army at least 3 times in 1992, 1993, and 2016, but he refused to ditch his brother. What is important for India is that the Sharif family has always been very positive about improving relations with India. Shehbaz had visited India in December 2013, had met Prime Minister Manmohan Singh and Commerce Minister Anand Sharma, went on a tour to various metro stations, power plant, among other infrastructure projects. He had also visited Punjab, where he had met the then Chief Minister and his Deputy CM Prakash Singh Badal and Sukhbir Badal, and had issued a joint statement on cooperation between the two Punjabs. In fact, in an interaction with journalists in which I was part of, he had pitched hard for the resumption of peaceful dialogue and on all issues, including Surf Creek, Siachen, water, and Kashmir. I remember him saying after his meeting with Prime Minister Manmohan Singh in December 2013, that he said, and I quote, "I told him that both trade and commerce have to be combined with strategic issues. Only exchange of cultural troops is not enough. We have to resolve problems through talks, not an option to brush problems under the carpet, have to address these problems." Now, Shehbaz Sharif is widely credited for his administrative skills, and as Chief Minister of Punjab, he had planned and executed a number of ambitious mega projects, including Pakistan's first modern mass transport system in Lahore. He had entered the political scene when he became the chief of the PMLN-chief after Nawaz was found guilty in 2017 on charges of concealing assets related to the Panama Papers revelations. Shehbaz has not been found guilty on any charges. In fact, his his sort of can-do approach and trying to bring Pakistan's economy back on track will be key to his stint as the Pakistan PM in the next year or so. Now, Imran Khan, if you remember, had made it very difficult politically for New Delhi to open channels, and he had personally attacked Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the BJP RSS combined here in Delhi. In September 2018, at the very beginning of his term, Khan had expressed his disappointment with India for cancelling the foreign minister level talks on the sidelines of the UNGA in New York after agreeing to it. At the time, he had said, targeting PM Modi, "All my life, I've come across small men occupying big offices who do not have the vision to see the larger picture." Now, that was obviously a dig at Prime Minister Modi. And now, after the revocation of Article 370 from Jammu and Kashmir in August 2019, his tone became more strident, and his language became more shriller against the Indian government. But in the last year and a half, Pakistan Army and the Indian establishment have opened back channels, but they agreed to adhere to the ceasefire along the line of control. Now, with the ceasefire holding for more than 1 year since February 2021, Shehbaz Sharif will find a willing partner in the army to move forward on the ties. It will be crucial to see how Shehbaz will act as trade ties with India could bring in funds, even as he navigates the political and diplomatic minefield for repairing ties with India. Now, unlike Imran Khan, Sharif will find it easier to do business with India, be in a better relationship with the US and the West, as well as engaging with China more proactively. Shehbaz, in fact, as Chief Minister of Punjab, worked closely on Beijing-funded projects. So from New Delhi's perspective, the power shift signals the possibility of an improvement of ties amid potential challenges and difficulties.